From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, a big day of news with the U.S. and China meeting at the G20.
At a minimum, it will be productive.
As the market weighs new numbers from USDA.
It's a junk number.
The numbers are so far off the mark of what people were looking forward to.
I mean, that's just incredibly shocking.
And farmers continue to wrestle with historically wet weather.
I would say 2019 has been a very high stress year.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. We have lots to get to this morning, starting with the latest on the trade war with China. USDA reporting a big buy of soybeans by China on Friday, saying the country purchased 544,000 metric tons of beans. That was on top of a sale earlier in the week of 145,000 metric tons, possibly to China, listed by USDA as unknown destinations. Now, some analysts wondering if it was China's way of improving relations ahead of the G20 summit of world leaders in Osaka, Japan over the weekend. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping meeting Saturday at the summit. Now, ahead of the meeting, China saying it hoped the U.S. could meet China halfway. The South China Morning Post reporting the two sides had agreed to a tentative truce in the trade war. President Trump saying he expected the meeting to be productive.
But we're doing very well as a country. The United States is the hottest country in the world right now, and the economy, all of the leaders have come up and said it's incredible what's happened with the United States, and they congratulate me and congratulate the people of the United States. But we have a hot country, and we're doing well.
Our Washington correspondent Jim Wiesmeyer saying he expects the two sides will continue to work toward a resolution.
China's economy needs this. They need it for further growth, for investment, et cetera, all the way up and down the line. And the U.S. Industries, especially agriculture, need this agreement so we can begin the process of restoring some, I don't think all, of the prior market sectors lost as a result of this year-long trade war.
Wiesmeyer says his contacts are pointing to October 1st as a timeline for a resolution. That's when China will celebrate 75 years of the People's Republic of China. They think President Xi will want the deal complete before then. China isn't the only focus for the U.S. at the G20. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer meeting with his Japanese counterpart to talk trade. Reuters reporting Lighthizer and Japan's Minister of Economic Revitalization meeting on the sidelines, the two agreeing to accelerated trade talks. The world's largest and third largest economies stressing their alliance is stronger than ever and hope to complete a deal later this year. Working level negotiations were taking place over the last 2 weeks with a focus on agriculture and industry. That's according to officials. We'll continue our coverage from the G20 summit tomorrow morning on AgDay. Also out Friday, a major report from USDA, the agency releasing its planted acreage numbers amid a historically wet and slow planting season, predicting big changes in corn, and if realized, soybean acres would be the lowest in 6 years. The news sending corn falling double digits and soybeans getting a big boost. Now, the survey taken during the first 2 weeks of June, USDA calling for corn acreage to increase 3% from last year. Plantings estimated at 91.7 million acres. In March, USDA called for 92.7, well above the trade guess of 86.6.
I mean, in their report, which was a shocking, 91.7 million acres of corn, that's only down 1 million acre from intentions. When in the WASDE report just a few weeks ago, they lowered the acreage by 3. Well, if they felt that confident to lower by 3, you would have thought that it would have probably been at least 5 or 6 million lost.
All week we've been calling it a junk number on AgriTalk. And guys, I put out the warning all week long that they were going to have a hard time getting down to the world board number of 89.8 million acres of corn planted, and they didn't, 91.7 million. The trade expectation on this was 86.6 million. Does 86.6 million make sense to me long term? Absolutely. Absolutely. 91.7, I hope the market can find a way to ignore it. Unfortunately, the algorithms are going to include anything above 86.6 million being bearish. That's going to get us a negative reaction.
And now take a look at soybean acreage, down 10%. Planted area is estimated at 80 million acres, the lowest since 2013. In March, it was estimated to be 84.6. The trade average was 84.3.
If you're going to call the corn number junk, you probably better call the bean number junk too. And there are some of those corn acres that were switched to soybeans late in the season. But I think this 80 million number really shows us the root of the problem. And the root of the problem was a lack of financial incentive to plant soybeans in 2019.
Checking wheat, the number is estimated to be down 5%, with planted acres at 45.6, matching trade averages. It represents the lowest wheat planted on record since the records began back in 1919. In March, the estimate was 45.7. USDA telling AgriTalk's Chip Flory that they will be resurveying several states. You see a map of them on your screen. They will be resurveyed for the August report. In Ohio, the state that's the furthest behind in planting, acreage remains in flux. The Ohio State's ag economist Ben Brown weighing in on the latest report.
Given the weather that we've had throughout the Corn Belt, and especially in the eastern Corn Belt, I think seeing a USDA June intentions report for planting around 92 million acres of corn is just shocking. I mean, that's just incredibly shocking.
Numbers and graphics aside, producers know it's been a wild year for planting, many turning to cover crops such as rye, wheat, barley, and oats to get something in the ground. A new Farm Journal Pulse survey showing 41% of those asked say they plan to plant a cover crop. But one supplier telling Farm Journal magazine seed for those small grain cover crops are nearly sold out. We spoke with one producer near Effingham, Illinois. He says he considers himself lucky that he got all his crops in this year.
I would say 2019 has been a very high stress year. You know, a lot of decisions to make at the last minute. The rain just keeps coming. Do you go with prevent plant? Do you go ahead and shove it in the ground in less than good conditions? You know, that's what we did here. We planted as hard as we could, round the clock, just like everybody else. You know, you're planting around mud holes. You're hoping you don't get stuck.
Walk says right now he needs growing degree units and just normal rainfall. The other report driving the markets right now, USDA saying farmers are hanging on to their soybeans. Just look at these numbers in the quarterly grain stocks report. Soybean stocks are up 47% compared to June of 2018. For on-farm stocks, they're up a whopping 94% higher than a year ago, while off-farm stocks climbed 26%.
The bean stocks came in well below trade expectations as well. I would say that that's a price-friendly number as well. But the problem with soybeans is that it's still a big number at 1.79 billion bushels, still a lot of beans. And the bean market has its most difficult time moving to the upside when those beans are held by farmers.
Overall, corn stocks dipping down 2% from a year ago. For all farm stocks, 2.95 billion bushels are stored on farms. That's up 7% from June of last year. Off-farm stocks are down 12%. For wheat, stocks totaling 1.07 billion bushels. That's down 2%. On-farm, 207 million, up 58%. Off-farm, 865 million, down 11%. All that wet weather continuing to be a big problem when it comes to feed. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman has more. Today's crop comments. Mike.
Thanks, Clinton. Well, feed is definitely needed right now in states hit hard by flooding. AgDay photojournalist Russ Natusco sharing this picture. He says he took this on I-80 in Indiana. This semi loaded with hay heading west, hopefully to help some of those farmers in need. I'll have more on your forecast coming up in just a little while, but first here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
All right, when we come back, we'll continue our market discussion amid the latest acreage and stocks reports from USDA. And later, celebrating all things fruit with a real hands-on experience.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
The country's biggest milk processor is now just a penny stock. Last week, shares of Dean Foods closed below $1 for the first time in its 20 years on the market. The reason? Americans just aren't drinking as much milk. Stocks that trade below $1 on the New York Stock Exchange for too long also run the risk of being delisted. A year ago, the stock price was above $10. Now, Dean says it's looking to sell assets and restructure debt. Corn tanked on Friday after planted acres came in well above expectations, but for soybeans, it was the opposite reaction. Here's an update on where we're starting things from this week at the CME.
Today in the grain market, soybeans rally. That USDA report was well below the estimates. The acreage was surprisingly bullish. Plus the reports of sales to China just today really gave the market a double-digit boost. That being said, opposite with corn, it really dropped a lot. That acreage report was super bearish, a big whopper of a number that was kind of unexpected. Even though we know we're going to get a little bit more accurate of a number in July, this really surprised a lot of. Wheat was also down really hard. That neutral USDA report really on the stocks as well as the acres just tells us no news is, this is like the buy the rumor, sell the facts. Since there is no news at all, what are we looking at? All the fundamentals are really relatively negative for wheat. Wheat is definitely going to be sympathetic to corn, so as corn goes lower, we can see it pull wheat down as well.
We're joined now by Arlen Suderman of INTLFC Stone. Arlen, your take on USDA's numbers Friday and the subsequent market reaction?
Well, the acreage report probably never should have been published because we knew from the start that it was not going to be valid. And so I'm glad to see him do a resurvey. But it does tell us something. It tells us that on June 1st, if farmers are reading the tea leaves, that they knew that the fundamentals were going to be good for corn. They're not going to be good for soybeans. And so it was their intention to switch from soybeans to corn. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that as much as they'd like because of the persistent rains.
You know, Arlen, one thing I keep wondering is where are the prevented plant numbers in this report? Do we see them hiding anywhere here?
We don't see them in this report, and we're probably not going to even have a hint of where they're at from USDA anyway before August and September when the FSA data starts to come out. But what we see is intentions right now. But in the end, those prevented plant acres, I think, are going to come out of both corn and soybeans, probably more out of corn than soybeans. That's what farmers are really trying to get in was corn, but they had difficulty doing so.
You know, as we look at market reaction Friday, negative for corn, positive for soybeans, how do you think the markets will balance out over the next few weeks?
Well, I think a lot of it was unwinding spreads to start with, so that'll settle down. I think we'll have a lot of people wanting to buy corn, particularly some of those who really know kind of what the losses are, particularly in the eastern Midwest as well as portions of the northwestern Midwest. A lot of feed buyers are really happy to see this break in corn prices, allow them to get some more coverage on. Soybeans are still going to be a follower of corn. They're going to need corn strength in order to sustain their strength.
All right, thanks, Arlen. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a moment.
Contact Arlen Suderman by email at arlen.suderman@intlfcstone.com. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day on this Monday morning. The root zone map is actually from earlier last week. We're going to get a new one here in a couple of days, but you can see it's still very wet. Iowa, down into northeast Texas, most of the central Mississippi Valley, Ohio Valley, and into Pennsylvania. This area should shrink a little bit when we get our new map, though, because things have been drying out a little bit at least. It's still going to take a while to get rid of most of that moisture. You can see, though, southern Arizona, northwestern portions of the country have turned a fair amount dry, and Drought Monitor is actually showing up into the severe category, western Washington, far northern Idaho, and far northern North Dakota. That's about it. There is one little pocket there in southeastern portions of Alabama, but a lot of this dryness in the southeast has been eaten away over the last 2 to 3 weeks. It started to expand northward, but we've had some rain in those areas. All right, the jet stream, as we head through this week, we are going to see the jet stream kind of get cut down a little bit. In other words, the ridge is going to be knocked down in the far northern states. And so we will begin to see some less hot air, let's call it, moving into the northern tier of the plains and eventually the Great Lakes. There's Thursday, and as we head through on into Friday and into the weekend, you can see a little bit of a trough, just barely trying to develop there across the Great Lakes, and so that may bring actually slightly cooler air by the end of the weekend. But we're still talking heat in the southern half of the country. That is not going to get cut down so far. I am going to go above normal for this week for most of the eastern third of the country, as you can see. Now, a lot of this area where I'm going near normal is actually always hot, so it's not like it's going to be cool. These slightly below normal areas are mainly because of perhaps areas of thunderstorms or a little bit of moisture in the ground still, and especially the southern plains there. So, you know, we have to take that factor into account. Precipitation this week, I'm going above normal only for the far northern plains, some of the upslope region of the northern Rockies, below normal out west, below normal in Florida. 90-day outlook, July temperatures below normal in the middle of the country, above in the east and the west. We'll go to August. We'll shrink that a little bit, but still below normal right in the center portions, above normal at the eastern third and the western third, and on to September, near normal through the middle of the country, above normal east and west. Precipitation over the next 90 days, I'm going above normal parts of the southeast, southern and central plains into the west, below normal areas only far northeast and the far northwest. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Amarillo, Texas, first of all, mostly sunny, hot and rather humid, high of 95. Duluth, Minnesota, partly sunny, comfortably warm, high just 79. And Columbus, Ohio, hot and humid with clouds and some sunshine, high around 90.
Coming up, Machinery Pete is talking tractors again.
Hey, stay tuned, folks. Coming up, we're going to highlight one used tractor model that's really holding its value well.
The IBM Watson Decision Platform for Agriculture, helping to feed a hungry world with the power of AI.
Every farmer has their favorite tractor, and as Machinery Pete tells us, some tractors also seem to hold their value for a long time.
Well, folks, last 18 to 20 months or so, I've talked and written a lot about used tractors really holding their value well. Now today, let's zero in on one particular model, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's focus on the John Deere 8235R. Now, Deere made this particular model from 2011 to 14. So at this point, we're talking 5 to 8 years old. Now, last Tuesday on a farm auction up in northwest Minnesota, this 2013 model, 2,546 hours on it, IVT, sold for $100,000. Now, the very next day, last Wednesday, in my hometown of Benson, Minnesota, west central part of the state, this 2012 model 8235R, power shift, only 783 hours on it, sold for $127,500. Now, if we zero in on just the 2012s and 13 models, here's a look so far this year at the average auction price. And you can see $127,500, that's the highest auction price this year. And on the lower side, we have to go all the way down to $61,000, but that had over 6,600 hours on it, sold on a consignment auction down in Florida. Now, here's the interesting thing, folks. If we look at the same numbers from 2 years ago in 2017, look how similar. Average auction price, $100,270 with a high of $129,000 and a low of $70,000. Folks, that's called holding your value.
Love fruit? Why not celebrate it by immersing yourself in it? We'll take a tour of this pop-up shop that might make your stomach rumble.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Feeling fruity? Then there's a new place for you. World of Fruit covers 11,000 square feet of a former mattress store not far from Hollywood Boulevard in California. It features 8 rooms full of multi-sensory installations, all devoted to fruit. Upon arriving, you're handed cones of real strawberries, blueberries, and blackberries. All rooms link to one another and offer a perfect backdrop for some Instagrammable selfies. Now, the founders say they wanted to create something fun and promote what they say is a healthy message.
You get to eat fruit. You know, we're not trying to condone eating candy or ice cream. We're a healthy experience. And we think in LA with the current health trends, veganism, gluten-free, we support all of that. And in addition to that, we support our local community. So a portion of all of our tickets are going to go towards nonprofits such as Food Forward, Habitat for Humanity, and LA Food Bank.
Tickets to World of Fruit are $35 with $1 from every ticket going to charity. The pop-up will be open until the end of October. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in and spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.